March 17, 1941, 3:37 in the morning. The North Atlantic Ocean, 40 miles northeast of Ireland. Commander Donald McIntyre stands very still on the control deck of HMS Walker. His hands grip the frozen metal so tightly that his knuckles have turned white. Below him, 41 cargo ships are moving east through huge waves that are 30 feet tall. Their hulls are filled with things Britain needs to survive: food, fuel, bullets, and steel. Behind them, hidden in the darkness, at least 5 German submarines called U-boats are circling like wolves hunting prey. What he doesn't know, what the Navy leaders don't know, is that within the next 6 hours, this very night, 2 of Germany's 3 best submarine captains will be defeated using tricks the Royal Navy has told everyone not to use. One of them will die when a ship crashes into his submarine. The other will come up to the surface with his submarine flooding badly, oil spreading across the black water, and his crew climbing out with their hands up to surrender. But this is jumping ahead in our story. The numbers tell us that Britain is slowly dying. In 1940 alone, German U-boats sank 471 Allied ships, 2.5 million tons, sending them to the bottom of the ocean. Each month, submarines destroy cargo ships faster than British shipyards can build new ones. The math is harsh and simple. At this speed, Britain will run out of food by Christmas 1941. The Royal Navy's answer is depth charges, metal barrels packed with 300 pounds of explosives, rolled off the back of destroyer ships, and set to explode at certain depths. The official number of submarines they sink, 3%. 3 out of every 100 attacks actually sink a U-boat. 3%. That number would soon become the key that changed history. In the British Navy leadership, everyone agrees. Senior officers at the Navy's Submarine Fighting Division look at the numbers and decide the depth charge is working exactly as it should. They think technology problems make it unlikely to improve things without completely new weapons. The rules are decided. The patterns are fixed. The settings are the same everywhere. No changes will be allowed. But in a room aboard HMS Stork, a young officer with no fancy degree, no research laboratory, and no official power fills notebook after notebook with math problems that prove everyone is wrong. Lieutenant Commander Frederick John Walker has been watching ships burn. He has pulled dead bodies from oil slicks. He has asked a question that the Navy refuses to answer. What if we're using depth charges completely wrong? His answer will save 10,000 lives. It will almost destroy his career. It will force the Navy leaders to ban his idea. And it will take a rule-breaking admiral willing to break every rule to prove that sometimes the lowest-ranking officer in the room sees truths the highest commanders cannot. September 3rd, 1939, the day Britain declared war. German submarine U-30 fired torpedoes at the passenger ship SS Athenia, killing 117 regular people. This was the opening shot of what Prime Minister Winston Churchill would later call the only thing that ever really frightened me during the war. The depth charge seemed like the answer. It was created in World War I, made better through the 1920s, and used the same way across the whole fleet. The idea was simple. Sonar operators aboard destroyers with special technology called ASTIC would find the submarine. The warship would speed up, drive straight toward it, pass over it going as fast as possible, then roll depth charges off the back, each one set to explode at the submarine's guess depth. But the idea crashed terribly against Atlantic Ocean reality. Problem 1. The moment a destroyer started its fast attack, ASTIC sonar lost contact. The beam couldn't keep tracking during the charging approach. Captains were dropping depth charges blind, hoping the submarine hadn't turned, gone deeper, or changed speed in the 30 seconds between last contact and releasing the weapons. 30 seconds. That number matters. Problem 2. Standard rules said to set depth charges for 150 and 300 feet. These depths were figured out for World War I submarines that could only go down to 200 feet. But Type 7 U-boats could dive to 750 feet. German commanders quickly learned the easiest escape trick. The moment they heard a destroyer's propeller sounds, dive deep. Go below where they think you are. Wait out the attack in deeper water where depth charges can't reach you. Problem 3. The diamond pattern. Navy rules demanded depth charges be dropped in preset shapes, assuming submarines traveled in straight lines. They didn't. U-boat captains made sharp turns the instant they went deep, making the carefully planned patterns useless. Every escape trick worked. Every attack missed. Between September 1939 and early 1941, Western Approaches Command attacked 174 confirmed U-boat contacts. They got 5 kills. That's a 2.9% success rate. German submarine building, meanwhile, was speeding up. By early 1941, German U-boats were being built faster than the Allies could sink them. The ratio was 4-to-1, 4 new submarines for every confirmed kill. The danger went beyond military problems. Britain brought in 60 million tons of supplies every year: food, oil, steel, ammunition. By March 1941, their stored supplies had dropped to 6 weeks' worth. If the U-boat fleet kept sinking ships at this rate for another half-year, Britain faced a choice between starving and surrendering. Churchill understood. In a March 1941 order later called the Battle of the Atlantic, he wrote, "Defeating the U-boat is the first job for the Navy's weapons and technology. Success in this will be measured by sinking more submarines than they can replace." The Royal Navy tried everything: longer-range aircraft, better convoy organization, improved radar, new sonar frequencies. But the basic problem stayed the same. When a warship found a U-boat and began its attack, the kill rate stayed stuck at 3 to 5%. Navy engineers suggested new weapon systems: forward-throwing bombs, guided torpedoes, sound sensors. All of it needed years to develop, and changes to the entire fleet that Britain couldn't afford. The Navy needed something that worked now, with equipment they already had on ships already at sea. Something that didn't require rebuilding the entire fleet. One man believed he had that answer. Not an admiral, not an engineer, not a weapons designer or a sonar expert. Lieutenant Commander Frederick John Walker was in 1941 exactly what military leadership fears most: a lower-ranking officer with an inconvenient mind. Walker had spent 3 years stuck in his career. His promotion was blocked. His ideas were dismissed. By every normal measure, his Navy career had stopped moving forward. He had no fancy degree from Oxford or Cambridge. He ran no research laboratory. He had no official power to change anything. What he had was a room aboard the destroyer HMS Stork, notebooks filled with math, and one basic question: why does everyone else accept failure? Frederick John Walker was born June 3, 1896 in Plymouth. With Navy officers going back 3 generations in his family, he joined the Royal Navy at age 13, served on cruisers in World War I, and earned his command at age 33. By every measure, he should have been an admiral by 1940. Instead, he was a frustrated lieutenant commander with a reputation for asking uncomfortable questions. The problem wasn't that he was bad at his job. Walker's ship handling was excellent. His tactical mind was sharp. The problem was his refusal to accept established rules without questioning them. In training exercises, he questioned patrol patterns. At staff meetings, he challenged damage reports. In 1937, serving aboard HMS Shropshire in the Far East, he submitted a 40-page analysis of convoy protection methods that went against Navy policy. The response was polite and devastating. Lieutenant Commander Walker's observations are noted, but go beyond what his current job allows him to discuss. No action needed. Translation: shut up and follow orders. By September 1939, Walker commanded the destroyer HMS Stork. Not a frontline job, not a career-advancing role. While officers at his level got promotions to command cruisers, Walker escorted convoys and watched U-boats escape. But Walker did something unusual for a frustrated officer. He studied his failures. After each unsuccessful depth charge attack, he interviewed ASTIC operators, measured time delays, calculated where the submarine probably was. He collected attack reports from other destroyers, not just the rare successes, but the constant failures. Within 6 months, his room contained notebooks filled with data, sketches, and math models. The pattern appeared slowly, then clearly. December 1940, North Atlantic. HMS Volunteer attacks a U-boat contact and releases 10 depth charges. No result. Walker reviews the tracking chart that night. The Aztec operator lost contact 400 yards before releasing weapons. Standard rules said to keep going the same direction and speed, but the U-boat didn't keep going the same way. It turned 90 degrees and dove deep the instant it heard the destroyer approaching. Walker did the math. A Type 7 U-boat traveling at 6 knots underwater, making a 90-degree turn, covers 200 yards in exactly 30 seconds. That's exactly the blind time between losing Aztec contact and releasing depth charges. The standard diamond pattern covered a circle 150 feet across. The actual chance of a U-boat staying in that circle after dodging, less than 10%. The solution seemed obvious to Walker, though no one else could see it. January 1941, Walker submitted a proposal to Western Approaches Command. His idea: split escort groups into teams. One ship keeps slow-speed Aztec contact from a distance, tracking the submarine's actual movements and radioing continuous position updates. A second ship makes the attack run, dropping depth charges not in preset patterns but based on real-time updates. The response came back within 48 hours. Stamped in red ink, rejected. Proposed changes violate established submarine fighting rules. Using multiple ships together creates unacceptable communication delays and crash risks. Request denied. Walker appealed. Denied again. He revised the proposal, adding calculations, probability models, and estimated kill rate improvements. Third denial. No more submissions on this matter will be accepted. What Frederick Walker didn't know was that his rejected proposal had reached someone's desk who actually understood what it meant. February 1941, Liverpool, Western Approaches Command, basement level. Commander Gilbert Roberts runs his hand across a floor painted to look like the North Atlantic. Around him, members of the Women's Royal Naval Service push model ships with long poles, acting out convoy movements. This is the Western Approaches Tactical Unit, Britain's secret wargaming laboratory. Roberts holds Walker's rejected proposal. He's read it 3 times. The official Navy position is clear. Rules exist for a reason. Individual commanders cannot make tactical changes without central approval. But Roberts sees something else in Walker's numbers, a pattern of smart thinking matching his own analysis. Roberts sets up a test. Over the next week, Walker runs 47 pretend attacks using standard rules versus Walker's change. Standard method, for percent kill rate. Walker's method, 11% kill rate. Roberts takes the results to Admiral Sir Percy Noble, Commander-in-Chief of Western Approaches. Noble's response is immediate. If this works, why isn't Walker doing it? Because, sir, the Navy forbade him to. Noble stares at the test results. This says we could triple our kill rate at minimum. What happens next violates every rule of Navy leadership. Noble doesn't submit Walker's idea through official channels for review. He doesn't form a committee or request more studies. On February 28, 1941, he issues a private note directly to escort group commanders. Commanding officers are allowed to develop and use tactical changes in submarine fighting at their own judgment, without needing prior Navy approval. It's a bureaucratic workaround, giving captains permission to ignore the rules without officially changing the rules. Walker receives the note on March 3, 1941. He immediately begins experimenting, not with the two-ship system requiring complex coordination, but with something simpler: depth charge settings. Standard rules specified 150 and 300 feet. Walker's calculation: Type 7 U-boats, upon detecting a destroyer, do crash dives at 45-degree angles. Maximum crash dive speed, 280 feet per minute. Time from periscope depth to 150 feet, 32 seconds. Exactly the delay between Aztec loss and weapon release. The U-boat isn't at 150 feet when the charges explode. It's at 75 feet, still diving through the shallow zone the Navy assumes is cleared. Walker's change: set 40% of charges to 50 feet, 40% to 100 feet, 20% to 200 feet. Create a vertical wall through the dive path. March 8, 1941. First test: attacking a submarine contact west of Ireland. Astic firm on a diving U-boat. Walker orders the new settings. The depth charges explode. Oil slick spreads across the surface. No confirmed kill. The U-boat escapes, but Walker's sonar team hears sounds they've never recorded. Hull buckling, water flooding, damage. That is illegal. The message arrives within 48 hours. You are ordered to stop non-standard depth charge settings immediately. The Navy hasn't just rejected his innovation, they've banned it. March 15, 1941. Liverpool, Wester approaches command conference room. Admiral Noble has called Walker to explain himself. Also present, 3 Navy representatives from London, 2 submarine fighting specialists, and Commander Roberts from WWII. The room itself feels like a courtroom. Captain Reginald Thornton, Navy Submarine Fighting Division, opens the questioning. Lieutenant Commander Walker, are you aware that unauthorized changes to weapons rules violate the Naval Discipline Act? Walker stands at attention. Yes, sir. Yet you deliberately used non-standard depth charge settings. Yes, sir. Why? Because the standard settings don't work, sir. The room erupts. Not with agreement, with anger. Thornton's voice cuts through the noise. Don't work. We've sunk 47 U-boats using these procedures. Walker remains calm. With respect, sir, we've attacked 1,370 submarine contacts since September 1939. 47 kills represents a 2.6% success rate. The submarines are diving below safe depths, which is exactly why shallow settings are necessary, sir. Walker pulls out his notebook. Type 7 U-boats do crash dives at 280 feet per minute. Our Astic loses contact 30 seconds before weapon release. During those 30 seconds, the submarine travels through depths between 50 and 150 feet, exactly the zone our current settings miss. Commander Stevens, weapons specialist, interrupts. Your change puts depth charges in the surface layer where our own propellers operate. You're risking the attacking ship. Walker doesn't hesitate. The charges explode 200 yards off the back, sir. Our propellers are forward and 15 feet below the waterline. There's no intersection risk if we keep standard attack speed. You can't know that without controlled testing. I've done 11 attacks using the modified settings, sir. HMS Stork has had 0 damage, but we've recorded pressure hull buckling on 6 occasions, sound we never heard using standard rules. Thornton stands, his patience gone. This is exactly the problem. Individual commanders using personal theories creates chaos. Rules exist for uniformity, for coordination across the fleet. If every captain invents his own tactics, how do we keep operations coordinated? Robert speaks for the first time. Captain Thornton, WWII has run extensive simulations of Commander Walker's changes. The projected kill rate improvement is 278%. Silence settles. 278%. Noble repeats. Yes, sir. If Walker's analysis is correct and U-boats spend the first 30 seconds of crash dives between 50 and 150 feet, then setting charges to cover that zone creates a far higher chance of success. Thornton cuts him off. Simulations aren't combat. These improvements haven't been tested under control conditions. The commander-in-chief cannot authorize fleet-wide use based on one officer's hunches. Walker's response is quiet. Then let me continue testing. Give me 6 months, sir. Let me use the changes in actual combat conditions. If the kill rate doesn't improve, I'll accept whatever punishment the Navy thinks is right. But if it works, if we can actually start sinking U-boats, how many merchant sailors will die while we're running controlled tests? Thornton's face reddens. That's emotionally manipulative. Walker snaps, command presence forgotten, frustration breaking through like a wave. 3,000 men went into the Atlantic last month. Just last month, sir. I've watched ships burn because we can't kill submarines. I've pulled bodies from oil slicks because our rules are wrong. So yes, sir, I'm emotionally invested in finding something that actually works. The room erupts again. Thornton demands Walker's removal from command. The weapons specialist insists on immediate Navy review. Roberts and Noble argue for field testing. Finally, Noble raises his hand for silence. Commander Walker, you will continue experimenting with depth charge changes. Captain Thornton, The Navy will receive monthly reports on effectiveness. If after 6 months Walker's methods show no measurable improvement, they will be stopped and he will face appropriate consequences. Noble pauses, letting the weight settle. If they work, we will use them fleet-wide immediately. He turns directly to Walker. Don't make me regret this. If these hidden military stories fascinate you, subscribe and hit the bell. These stories take months of research to uncover. Your support keeps history's heroes visible. March 17, 1941, 3:37 in the morning. The North Atlantic. The convoy battle that opened our story returns. HMS Walker and HMS Vanek have been hunting you. 99, commanded by Captain Otto Kretschmer, the most successful U-boat ace in history. 44 ships destroyed. The hunt has been relentless. 3 hours of contact, 3 hours of attacks, 3 hours of failure. McIntyre hears whispers about Walker's changes. Desperate times demand unconventional solutions. He orders Vanek to circle wide, keeping slow-speed contact. Walker will make the attack run, but instead of charging blindly at high speed, they'll coordinate. Vanek radios continuous position updates. Walker adjusts course based on real-time tracking. At 300 yards, Walker releases depth charges. 40% set to 50 feet, 40% to 100 feet, 20% to 200 feet. The ocean explodes. Not the usual white geysers. This time the water turns black with oil. Debris surfaces. Then, incredibly, 99 herself breaks the surface at a steep angle. Water cascading off her conning tower. Crew scrambling on top with hands raised. Kretschmer's war diary. Recovered later. Depth charges exploded in close succession at various levels. Pressure, hull, fractured forward. Flooding uncontrollable. No choice but to surface. British tactics unlike anything encountered before. 45 minutes later, same night, same tactics. HMS Walker attacks U-100 commanded by Joachim Schept, Germany's second highest scoring ace. Coordinated tracking, modified depth charge settings. U-100 surfaces. HMS Vanek rams the submarine, cutting her in half. Schept dies in the collision. 2 of Germany's 3 top aces eliminated in one night, using methods the Navy had ordered Walker to abandon. The news reaches London within 48 hours. The ban on Walker's changes quietly disappears. April through December 1941, field testing phase. Walker doesn't merely use his new settings. He obsessively refines them. After each attack, he interviews crews, reviews sonar tapes, calculates blast effects. His notebooks fill with equations, shockwave models, probability charts. May 1941, HMS Rochester attacks U-147 using Walker's methods. The first depth charge pattern forces the U-boat to surface damaged. Confirmed kill. Success rate, 1 for 1. June 1941, HMS Gladiolus attacks 3 U-boat contacts using standard rules. No kills. The captain switches to Walker's modified settings for 4th contact. The submarine surfaces with catastrophic flooding. Kill confirmed. July 1941, Western Approaches Command issues Tactical Memorandum 114. All escort commanders are authorized to use variable depth charge settings as the tactical situation requires. The Navy hasn't officially approved the changes. They've simply stopped banning them. The numbers tell the story. 1940. 334 U-boat attacks by Royal Navy escorts. 11 confirmed kills. Kill rate, 3.3%. 1941, January through March, pre-modification 147 attacks, 5 kills. Kill rate, 3.4%. 1941, April through December, post-modification 289 attacks, 22 kills. Kill rate, 7.6%. Walker's changes more than doubled the effectiveness of existing weapons. June 1943. Walker, now a captain commanding the 2nd Support Group aboard HMS Starling, perfects something even more revolutionary: the creeping attack. The method requires 2 ships. Ship 1 keeps slow speed ASTA contact, tracking every movement. Ship 2, engine silenced, moves at barely moving speed, creeping toward the target, guided by radio directions. The U-boat never hears the attack until depth charges surround its position with nowhere to run. June 24, 1943. Bay of Biscay. Walker's group detects U-119. A standard attack would fail. The submarine immediately dives deep and begins dodging maneuvers. But HMS Kite keeps distant tracking while Starling creeps forward, silent as death. Release point. Immediate underwater explosion. Surface debris, including clothing and wood pieces. Heavy oil slick about 400 yards across. U-boat destroyed. Confirmed kill. First operational use of the creeping attack. Over the next 11 months, Walker's second support group sinks 6 more U-boats using these methods. Other escort groups adopt the tactics. By early 1944, the Walker method becomes standard procedure across the fleet. German reaction came slowly, then with growing alarm. From Grand Admiral Karl Donit's War Diary, May 1943, recent U-boat losses indicate Allied depth charge tactics have changed significantly. Boats report charges exploding at multiple depths simultaneously, preventing evasive diving. Commander reports coordination between surface vessels suggest information sharing beyond our tactical models. Current evasion rules may be inadequate. July 1943, intercepted message from U-boat command to all boats at sea. Urgent. British destroyers using new attack patterns. Conventional crash, dive, no longer effective. Upon detection, do immediate deep dive to maximum safe depth. Stay silent running minimum 45 minutes. Multiple depth settings confirmed. Shallow evasion compromised. The Germans had figured it out. Walker's changes had forced them to abandon their primary tactical advantage, shallow depth evasion, and retreat to depths where they lost maneuverability, speed, and offensive capability. March 15, 1944, HMS Starling and Second Support Group Escort Convoy HX 280. 6 U-boats attack. Walker's group attacks 19 separate contacts over 36 hours. 2 U-boats sunk, 1 severely damaged and forced to stop patrol. Not a single merchant ship lost. Convoy Commodores report. The skill and determination of Captain Walker's group prevented what could have been catastrophic losses. Their methods represent the most significant advance in submarine fighting since the introduction of ASTIC. Total U-boats sunk by ships under Walker's direct command, 20. Total U-boats sunk fleet-wide using Walker's modified tactics, 1941 through 1945, estimated 147. Estimated merchant sailors saved, 10,000 to 15,000 lives. A surviving crew member from HMS Starling, interviewed decades later. Because of Captain Walker, we came home. Not all of us, but most of us. That's everything. If you found value in this story, join our community. Subscribe, share this video, and hit the bell. Your engagement determines what histories we uncover next. These stories deserve to be told. July 9, 1944. Liverpool Naval Hospital. Captain Frederick John Walker, 48 years old, dies of a cerebral thrombosis, medical terminology for exhaustion-induced stroke. He'd spent 18 months at sea with minimal rest, driving himself relentlessly through every patrol, every hunt, every kill. His crew would later say he seemed possessed, as if he was personally fighting every U-boat in the Atlantic. At his funeral, his crew carries the casket. Thousands line the streets of Liverpool. Prime Minister Winston Churchill sends a telegram. Captain Walker was one of the outstanding commanders in the Battle of the Atlantic. His record of U-boats destroyed is unequaled. The Royal Navy has lost one of its most brilliant officers. But Walker received none of this recognition while alive. Despite his innovations, despite 20 confirmed kills, despite saving thousands of lives, he never received a knighthood, never became an admiral, never commanded anything larger than an escort group. Why? The official records stay carefully silent, but naval historians note Walker's career stalled exactly when he began questioning rules. The Navy could use his methods. They couldn't forgive his insubordination. Lieutenant Commander Peter Gretton, who served with Walker, Johnny saw what needed doing and did it regardless of what the rulebook said. That makes him a hero to sailors and a problem to administrators. The Navy uses tactics, but never quite forgave him for being right when they were wrong. Production numbers tell the final story. By mid-1944, modified depth charge tactics had become standard fleet procedure, written into Anti-Submarine Warfare Manual PAV 12.7. Variable depth settings and coordinated attacks, as pioneered by Captain F.J. Walker, are authorized for all escort operations. The method never received an official name. Sailors called it Walker's Way. May 1943, Black May, for German U-boats, marked the turning point. Allied forces sank 41 U-boats that month alone, more than in any previous month of the war. Donitz withdrew his submarines from the North Atlantic entirely, ending the immediate threat to British supply lines. By war's end, total U-boats lost, 783. Lost to depth charges, 1941 through 1945, 246. Estimated attributable to Walker's modified tactics, 147. Merchant ships saved by improved kill rates, 850 to 1,000. Lives saved, 10,000 to 15,000. Modern legacy. Today's submarine fighting still uses principles Walker pioneered: coordinated attacks, multiple sensor tracking, variable depth weapons. The U.S. Navy's RUR-5 Asrock, the British Royal Navy's Stingray torpedo, even modern helicopter-dropped depth charges, all use multi-depth targeting and coordinated tracking. Naval War College at Newport, Rhode Island, teaches the Walker method in its submarine fighting courses. NATO's submarine hunting rules reference his tactics. When the Royal Navy trains escort commanders, they study Walker's combat logs as primary texts. The lesson extends beyond naval warfare. Sometimes innovation comes not from laboratories or research departments, but from the people actually doing the work, those who see what's broken and fix it, regardless of what the manual says. Frederick Walker never wrote a book, never gave speeches, never promoted his methods beyond submitting those rejected proposals. He simply saw a problem, calculated a solution, and used it despite explicit orders not to. The North Atlantic became his laboratory. 10,000 sailors came home because of it. His gravestone in Liverpool carries a simple inscription chosen by his crew: Captain F.J. Walker, CB, DSO, and 3 bars. He was the best of us.